All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 40, and this is a very special one. This is a milestone episode, but I'm here with my buddy. We were just joking right now before the intro as to what I'm going to say, but it's SgtMaj Rick. That's what we're going with. And before we get started, give him a little cheers, because we just did our Irreverent Warrior hike, and it was a phenomenal time. What do you think?
Great time, much needed medicine for all involved.
Oh, God. And I just met him 6 months ago through the Irreverent Warriors. So now we have a connection, and we're going to have some beers.
Salud, brother.
And we're going to talk some shit. Oh. See, as you can see, it's our silky hike. Look, I'm even wearing a shirt. But, we met about 6 months ago, and he had just the stories, and we gravitate towards each other like any veterans do.
Yeah.
And, I told him after the hike that we had this past weekend, I haven't done this in almost a little over 2 months. I haven't done any interviews because I've been busy with the hike.
Yeah.
And I've been prepping for it.
It's a lot of effort.
And it was a fun hike. Bloody Mary station, but some somber moments. But yeah. Did you have Bloody Marys?
I did.
You had a couple, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a couple. You have to.
But it's one of those things where, it's a great cause, a great, event, but it doesn't come without some trials and tribulations, as well as, some touching moments,
Mm-hmm.
But, this is going to be all about SgtMaj Rick and, his journey and what he's been a part of. But I want to say to those viewers that constantly see my stuff, I'm sorry that it's been a couple of months, but it was straight up inundated with this hike. So without further ado, let's get started on this thing. So Rick, a little background. Like I said, I've known you for about 6 months, and you told me your story, and you did 27 years in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give me a little background as to where you're from, who you are.
Absolutely. But just to preface it, Pedro, just thank you. I know you just said right now to your viewers, apologize for being out, but it was for a great cause, to put on a great march, man. So hats off to you. It's a lot of coordination. It's a lot of work, and I'm telling you, as a participant, it was well worth it, man. So it was definitely some good time away from the podcast, but it was for a good cause.
I really.
So thank you, man. Thank you. As for me, really simple kid. Grew up in the border town of Nogales. Nerdy, very studious, with the glasses, skinny, short, I was meant to be a doctor or a dentist like my dad, and I soon realized that was not for me. I just couldn't see myself doing something like that. There was a calling, and 2 days after graduating from high school, I joined the Marines.
Oh, wow.
I was the first one in my family to ever join the military. Everyone was expecting me to go and do great things and be, come out with the cure for cancer and all this stuff. But something, that wasn't me. And I went in open contract June 4th of 1990. And on August 2nd, 1990, right in the middle of boot camp, Iraq invaded Kuwait. So we knew we were going to war, and they marched about 12 of us in my platoon down in MCRD San Diego to some admin building. They lined us up alphabetical order, and some gunny came out and said, all right, this is what your MOS will be. And they went infantry, tanker, infantry, tanker, infantry, tanker. All right, so I ended up being an infantryman. Long story short, I did 7 years. I was with 7th Marines, storied 7th Marines in 29 Palms, eventually with 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines down in Camp Pendleton. And I have to say one of the best parts of my story is that at the time, my regimental commander was none other than, back then, he was Colonel Mattis.
Oh, really?
If you know the word.
Wow.
Yeah. And he really was all that, I got to serve under Colonel Mattis. I got out, went to college, became a high school teacher. I was out for about 5 or 6 years, but then the bug bit, man. The adrenaline rush, the camaraderie, all that I was missing. Something felt like it was undone, and so I went back in, and immediately I deployed many times, a shitload of times, brother. Ended up serving another 20 years and retired about 2.5 years ago.
Wow!
Finally. So that's it, really. Afghanistan, Iraq, Djibouti, countless unit deployment programs to Okinawa, where we chewed the same fat over there, probably. Canville, and, all those nasty places.
Yeah.
The banana lady.
Oh God. We will not talk. This is not. This
you old salts. You old salts know what I'm talking about.
And I heard she passed. Before she passed away, she gave the legacy to her daughter.
Oh, that's some kinky shit, man.
If you don't know, this lady would put a roll of quarters or yen up her and give you exact change. Those Kegel.
Oh my God!
Right? Yeah. and the funny thing is, this was Gate 2 Street. Gate 2? Yeah, Gate 2. And the Marines would always eat the banana, but don't question where the banana came from.
Oh my God! This guy.
It's gonna get a little shaky because we have a table and
and we get excited.
Yeah, we get excited. So I apologize that. But now going back, you said that your dad, you're the first one who joined the military.
Yeah.
But what gave you that itch? I mean, in '90 we were in peacetime. There was nothing going on in the very early '90s.
Yeah.
So what gave you that? I want to join.
That's a great question, man. There was a couple of things. One is I'm an immigrant, and this country gave my dad, who grew up extremely poor, a great opportunity. He went to college. He went to Columbia, which is an Ivy League school. Became a dentist. Gave him a great opportunity, and I felt that I owed something back. And that was a big deal for me.
Wow.
I wanted to, I grew up happy, with a happy childhood, and I wanted to give back. I didn't feel complete. I would never feel complete if I didn't give something back, and I knew this even as a young age. Another one was, I was little, I was a nerd, I was very studious, top of my class, but I got bullied a lot because of that, and I felt I needed to some strength. My dad never really wanted me to fight or to just do your own thing, don't pay attention to that, but I needed a kick in the butt. I needed a kick in the ass, and then finally, just a desire to do something completely different. It was like run away and join the circus, do some, because it's a small town, Nogales. What I mean? It's a small, little, sleepy, boring border town, and I just, the legend says that you never really leave Nogales, man, and I was like, the only way to get out of here is to do something drastic, and to do something like extreme. And the Marines seemed like the way to go.
So that whole bully thing, that wasn't, you hear a lot of it throughout the military, because I've heard a lot of people, in that same. Yeah. But I didn't know him as a sergeant major. I know him now, and I could only imagine like how he is, because he's a pretty big dude. Like he's broad shoulders and everything. So. As a
silverback,
as a young kid, but as a young kid, we're all just skinny, and I mean,
right?
I was skinny,
Yeah.
You just gotta find.
But how you are when you're a teenager, man. And everything bothers you. You never fit in. I was a rocker, and back then we didn't fit in. Now it's a fad. Be a goth and all black. Back then it wasn't, man. We were out, man. I was considered a Satan worshiper because I listened to Motley Crue.
Especially in the border town.
Yeah, in the border town. Mexican, border town. Like, oh, mijito, But I wanted to not be afraid anymore.
Yeah.
And I used to swallow a lot of it, and but I wanted to, in my head, as I was going through boot camp, I saw myself coming back, like in a movie or something, and like taking on all the bullies, like and I did. I want to say when I graduated from boot camp, I felt I could fly, I felt I could walk on water. That feeling of like, I will never fear anything ever again, and my chest was out to here, and I stood tall, and like nothing could bother me ever. It was a wonderful feeling, man.
Yeah.
It was a drug, it was addictive.
So now you joined because of those three things.
Mm-hmm.
What made you stay past your first enlistment? Because and I'm gonna just kind of tell you,
mm-hmm.
I know a lot of Marines. I had a lot of Marines in my
mm-hmm.
distant family,
mm-hmm.
but they usually do a tour, maybe a tour, 2 tours, and they're done. Because
mm-hmm.
the Marines not a lifestyle that most people are just like, hey, I want to make this a career.
It's a difficult lifestyle, man, especially in the 90s, where welfare wasn't really exactly on the top of their minds, and we were still wearing Vietnam style gear, barracks. I remember being on a working party where they sent us to the barracks to take out the asbestos.
Oh, wow.
It was all about war fighting, and I get it, but it was being stationed in 29 Palms. And it's horrible. It's a horrible base. It's much better right now, but back then, to be 18, not allowed to drink, not enough money to buy a car. It was the base with the most domestic abuse cases, suicide rates, alcoholism rates. So and then it's desert. It's lonely. It's about 10 miles outside of the gate. To the town, and there's nothing there in town other than tattoo shops, barber shops, tailor shops, nothing. So I wanted to say that I was somewhere else other than 29 Palms. Mm-hmm. So I re-enlisted, and lo and behold, I got sent to Camp Pendleton. The Marine Corps redeemed itself there, man, and it was the best time ever.
Really?
But I felt, and that was my second enlistment. I did my second enlistment in Camp Pendleton. But I felt I had accomplished my goals of, regaining some discipline, being a leader, figuring out what I wanted to do in life. So I got out, and I got out. I went to college, and, it was great because I put to use everything I learned in the Marines. I graduated summa cum laude, double major. And, it was like I credit it to the Marines, I credit it to if I start something, I'm going to finish it, and I'm not only am I going to finish it, but I'm going to destroy it. Mm-hmm. I destroyed my assignments and everything. And I went into teaching, did 3 years, and same thing. I credit it to my time in the Marines and being a leader, the way I ran my classroom. I was teacher of the year. My first year as a teacher, as a rookie teacher of the year, and for the county teacher of the year also as well. But still, something was missing, brother. Something, man, and that's when I went back in.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you did those 2 enlistments, right? It was 2 enlistments, and then you got out, became a teacher.
Yeah.
So then your why changed.
Yeah.
Your why changed because you became a teacher, teaching these young minds. But then you still had more. You still your why was, hey. You know what?
And I love that you're doing this because as you said that, a light went off that I hadn't thought of before. I swear. This is a great moment right now because in the Marines, I witnessed several types of leaders, and when I first got out, I got out as a sergeant, and I molded myself, and one of the ways I try to be a good leader was I always said to myself, I'm going to be the type of leader, I'm not going to do the shit that the shitty leaders did, right? I felt uncomfortable around my peers because I didn't feel, like if I was around a group of other sergeants, I felt like an outsider. You know, I actually felt intimidated by them because I never realized that I was one of them. You know, I always still considered myself one of the guys, not in the sense like a fraternization or anything like that, but more like I understand where they're coming from a bit more. I wasn't married, you know, or anything. I still lived in the barracks as a sergeant, so I understood what they went through. And when I got out, that was my approach to teaching. You know, that I wasn't cussing at my students and like, you motherfucker, you know.
Wait, you probably did though.
If any of my students are watching this, you know what I'm talking about, right? But I had great classroom management, no discipline problems, but my students were engaged, and right now I realize that it was love. You know, that you know, the best leaders I had in the Marines said, you know what, you can have the best leadership training, you can have the best this, but if you don't truly love your people, it's for naught, man. It's for nothing, you know. And the intensity, the why are we training? It's so you won't fucking die in combat. Can we say?
Yeah, you can say whatever the fuck you want. Like,
you know,
we just talked about the banana lady.
Everything goes.
Students, don't fucking pay attention unless you went there.
And stay away from midgets in Korea.
Oh.
Yeah, that's another story, brother, for later. But seriously though, I loved my guys, you know. I trained when I trained them, I don't ever want to have to talk to your parents and tell them that you didn't come back from combat because I didn't force you to do one more pull-up, or I didn't I could have pushed you to run a little bit faster. And when I taught, you know, wow, you know, this is great because I'm like realizing this, like I'm teaching you with passion because I want you to survive in this ruthless, cold world out there, you know, and so that was my why, man. And, you know, and I wanted to take it out there to my students that I didn't treat like Marines, but I treated them like, you know, like my I'm going to battle with them, you know, and these students are going to vote. They're going to take care of me when I'm old, you know, just like my young corporals, lance corporals, whatever. They're probably going to take care of me if I'm wounded in battle, you know. So that was my approach. So.
Wow, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I just thought of that man.
We try to shape and mold our kids and our future generations.
Yeah,
but
man.
That's absolutely.
You gotta love them, man. We leaders tend to forget that. You know, in the Marines, we have the 14 leadership traits, man. Every Marine will tell you this, right? JJ did tie buckle. It's the acronym. And I always ask them, you know, if you were the commandant and you had the power to add a 15th one, right, a 15th leadership trait, what would it be? And they all came out with all kinds of things, and some of them are redundant, or, you know, they're just a different name for one that already exists. You know, and I always throw out to them, what about love, man? You know, and not some like gay love shit that, you know, Marines, you know, no, I'm talking about like, you know, if your guy hurts, you hurt with them, you know, and if they're happy, you're happy with them, you know.
Keep that in mind, because we before we even had this started this podcast, we sat and had a whole bunch of conversation, and that love and us.
Yeah,
it's hard. It's hard as individuals, as males, to show it. You know, because you have that. But
have you noticed in the military, man, that it, like, you know, we don't say hi like, hey, what's up? In the hike, you know, everybody's like hugging and you know, like it's this vulnerability that we are able to show with each other. You know, that like it's just incredible.
You know, I've seen this, and this is testament to what I've seen in my career and beyond. I saw this meme where it talked about, you know, people outside of the military will be happy and give you like, oh my God, you're so amazing, blah, blah, blah. But behind, when you turn your back, they talk shit to you. In the military, it's the exact opposite. I will talk fucking absolute shit to this motherfucker and everybody else. Luis, you know who you are. And I will talk so much shit. But then when you walk away from me, like, I'm telling my brothers and my sisters that this man.
Like,
this is,
dude, we die for each other, man.
I know.
You know that's just blows my mind. You know,
that's why this hike is important. That's why I'm going to the Dallas hike to do this all over again and to continue, because you're right. We do die for each other. We go to battle with each other. We do the things that we need to do, but we're there for each other.
And we can say, you know what, man, you're being a dick today. I can't stand you. You better fix your shit. But you know what? If we are in combat, I will throw myself on some grenade for you, man, if you need it. So it's hard to be out in the world, and one of the things that we do, especially through the hike, is to kind of lead by example and show our civilian friends, try to pass that along, try to, we in the military can truly make the world a better place, through our actions and how we interact with each other.
It's difficult because I saw this.
They don't get it sometimes. Right?
Yeah, they don't get it. They don't get it. And this is difficult because it translates into what I saw and I read about this hike, is that, we don't allow civilians on our hike because there's that element that it's our safe space. We can sit there and talk shit
be vulnerable.
And be vulnerable and discuss the things that no civilian is going to know what the damn banana show is. No civilian is going to know what it's like to be in a Connex, living in a Connex with somebody and just hear fucking noises that you don't ever want to fucking hear being next to somebody with the fucking sheet hanging next to them. You know what I mean?
The happy sock.
Or the happy sock. Or the fucking people munching on shit that they shouldn't be eating in their fucking barracks. You know what I mean? Like, and you could just go through these things and no civilian's gonna know, because at the end of the day, at the end of their workday, what do? They go on about their business and their life and whatever they have. But as us deploying and being around each other 24/7, that's a hell of a fucking thing.
It is, man.
Like you don't. I have. And I'm saying this, and I apologize to my two siblings that I really get along with, but I have friends that are more my siblings or my brothers and sisters than I do some of my siblings. And I hate to say it this way, but like, I know my siblings have my back, but if I called on my friends, like, these motherfuckers will drop everything that they're doing and fucking be there in fucking, do I need to take a flight? Do I need to do, it's just that fucking camaraderie that we bring together,
Yeah.
I digressed a little. I apologize for that, but
hey, man, I'm enjoying it.
But now, you went into teaching and then you went back in, and it was that gearing towards, you want to help train and bring. But what was the why for joining back in? Because you said you had the itch, but there's a why. There's a reason. Was it was obviously post 9/11. Were you in still during?
No, actually. I was about to graduate from college, and the why, the main one, was that 9/11. I did a lot of shit from 90 through 97-ish when I got out, but still it wasn't the Super Bowl, And then 9/11 came around, and I was like, I can't, I can't watch while all of this happens. I had a great career. I was about to be made the department head for the honors program at my high school. And 9/11's going on, and what was going on, Pedro, was that 9/11's happening, and I'm teaching kids, right? Seniors. And I'm teaching them, and I would look out as I'm teaching the kids, and I'm seeing their faces. They're 17 or 18 years old. And in my head, I'm thinking, these people are going to go to war, my kids here, these are the types that are going to go to war. Holy shit, I gotta be with them, and that's what prompted me, and the feeling. I've never been one that just lets things simmer. Like, if I want something, I go get it, and I didn't want to live with that. What if, what if I could have done something, and I couldn't. I don't know if I don't think I could have lived with myself knowing that I didn't do my part again. So it was tough, but I went back in.
So when did you rejoin?
It must have been about 2006.
2006.
So
you were out of the military for what, 8 years?
Yeah, I got out 97. Yeah, something like that.
Holy
7
fuck.
years. Yeah. Can you imagine?
8 years. 8
Yeah,
years.
I'm married, had a kid. I wanted to go before, right? So I was about to, but I had to do my student teaching. I was all like scholarships, GI Bill, and I was like, man, I have to finish, and then I'll go. I have to finish my degree because I may never have this opportunity again. My dad was always very big on education.
Oh yeah.
And at least I wanted to have that, under my belt.
So he joined back in 06 in the height of the war. Like seriously, like.
Yeah.
I mean, Fallujah was right around that time.
Yeah. All of that.
All these battles. I mean, and then you talk about Afghanistan. So we weren't just a one front war. It was a two front war, and it was
multiple.
It was bad. But like you said, you deployed multiple times, and you could have just done your stint and got out. Why did you stay even longer? Because that's tough.
Yeah.
Like,
you know what? I asked myself that a lot because now, as I was getting out, I blinked, and I'm getting out now. Like 20 years passed since I joined back or whatever, and why did I stay in? Well, you have shitty leadership, you have great leadership, you have shitty units and great units, and I never wanted to get out with a bad taste. I always wanted to make sure that if I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna leave, with a feeling good about my service and my time. But I was always in a position that I always felt myself, I was like a shield for my guys. I always felt I was leaving them alone. Leaving, even though I would get sent to another unit, I felt that I was like, I know something that's going to help them. Even if I go to a new unit, I'm a type of person that like, I'm so grateful and happy. I don't know if it's the right word, but I love what I do. I want to show you why. I want to show you why I love what I do, so that you can have a good time in the Marines too. And be happy about your choices. It's not going to be easy. I'm not going to, it's not going to be rosy and, and beautiful and flowers and all the time, But man, I want you to, I wanted to have them understand how good it felt to be in something worthwhile, to be part of something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Even though it sucked, being in the field and this and hungry and dirty and cold or whatever. But man, when you come back and you're like, man, we did a good job. That was what I wanted for them to feel, And if they did 1 year, 2 years, 3, whatever, and then they got fine. But at least they know that they didn't get out thinking that their time in the Marine Corps was wasted. There you go.
Wow.
There you go. I love this guy because he's doing all the talking, but not.
Yeah.
But that was it. I wanted them to feel that, what you're doing is honorable. It's great. And it might not have been the best time, but you know what? I want you to feel that your time was worth it and well spent.
So you see this wall back here? It's got all his ranks. Now, obviously he was E1, which you don't have anything, through E9. This part right here is where it gets real. This part is real, don't get me wrong. But this part right here is 2010, 15, and 20. Those are major milestones.
Yeah.
Why? Because, again, you wanted your soldiers to feel, but you kept going.
Yeah.
You kept pushing.
Yeah.
It wasn't for a retirement pension because we talked about that.
Yeah.
I
didn't need the money.
That's a benefit of this. But you pushed through and became...
Yeah.
One of the top, one of the elite in the military, in the sense of rank. It's got to be done. I mean, I'm looking at his pretty official picture over there, and that was a couple years ago. But you look at him and this is what you did. This is part of your why, but it was for the soldiers.
Yeah,
it was or not the soldiers, the Marines.
Yeah,
I shouldn't say soldiers.
I if you're a leader, you're leading everybody: Marines, sailors, airmen. And it was one of those things. See, I never looked I took the advice again. I was blessed to have really shitty leaders, because I give them credit too for showing me what not to do. But I had really good leaders that would literally tell me, your promotions should be a surprise for you. Do everything that you can to improve yourself. Do the courses, do whatever you need to do. Every rank up was, when I got selected, it was a surprise. And I always wanted to make sure that my troops knew that I didn't need to step over them, that I didn't need to abuse them or take advantage of them to get to the next rank. And every time I got promoted, the first ones I thanked was them. My young guy. It's like, I want, if I got to Gunny 7 or first on whatever, it's like, you guys gave that to me, not me. You guys, that's you guys doing what you're supposed to do. And the reason I stayed was because if they gave me that gift, well, I owed it to them to make good on their faith in me to exercise that particular rank.
And I appreciate that, because I've done interviews, but not only have I done the what's your why, but I have still a lot of friends in the military, still a lot of friends that retired, and a great leader always helps, thanks his subordinates, and then helps bring them up. You got to mold and shape those young ones. You just can't go on and step on people and continue to grow.
And
that's the beauty is, as you're explaining this, I know, because I saw it, I lived it, and people who were, my supervision was, they would say, hey, I stepped up, now it's time for me to grab you here and let's fucking go, and that's a great attribute of a leader. Absolutely great. And you have those bad leaders.
And and it sucks that you have those bad leaders, but to me, I learned just as much from them too, because I would say to them, I will never do that. I am never going to treat my guys like that. I do believe in something called 360-degree leadership, right? Where if you're a good leader, you lead your peers, you lead your subordinates, but you also lead your superiors, right? You set a good example for those above you. And the bad leaders that I had usually were higher than me, and I was like, what, I'm never gonna do that, you learn and you learn.
So now we just talked a little bit about bad leaders, and we know.
Yeah.
But what was one of the things that really, really frustrated you while you were in? Because there's the bad leadership and stuff like that, but what was it that you were just like, oh man, this is something that I really dread?
Yeah. All right. So, in country, in Afghanistan, Iraq, wherever we were, we have rules of engagement and we have escalation of force, right? Where we have, let's say if you're at the front gate of a patrol base, and you have certain markers where, like, if they're at a certain distance, you use a verbal warning, and then a flare pan, and then this, and then deadly action if they get too close, right? So let's say someone's approaching the front gate. We take certain measures to and the last resort is to actually kill them, right? At deadly force. I use that because sometimes we had leaders who we use escalation of force on the enemy, but we didn't use it on our own Marines, as far as discipline is concerned. I remember having leaders, that were like, a kid fucked up, oh, throw the book at him, 45, pay. You're like, holy shit, man. Like I had one battalion commander who chewed us out, me, the company commander, his platoon sergeant, his platoon commander. We were brought in. I don't know what you guys call it. We call it NJP, Ninja Punch, in the the Marines. Article 15. Yeah. And
what we just
and he asked us, what our thoughts were, and the guy was a good Marine, man. He was a great Marine, actually, and it was a misunderstanding out in Tokyo. A Japanese policeman put his hand on him, and the guy got scared and he threw it away. The Japanese cop thought he was fighting, and then they threw him in jail. Anyways, but the battalion commander didn't want to hear anything of this, right? And wanted to throw the book at him. And we went to the NJP, and we were like, he asked us what we thought, And my company commander started saying, well, he's a good guy. Like, he just stopped and started yelling at us for saying good things about the guy, right? And then he asked me, like, what do you think about this guy? Like, well, it was a mistake. And he just basically threatened us to ninja punch us too for trying to speak good about this kid. And then he threw the book at him. There was, and in my head I'm thinking, you know what? We give the enemy escalation of force benefits, but we don't give our Marines that. Wow. And that was just like, why do we look at our guys like cattle? Like just numbers, that's why they get out, and we all mess up. We all, there's some non-negotiables, right? Weapon safety, safety on the right, shit like that. Yeah. There's some things that are coachable and some things that are non-coachable, right? That you just, and some things we live in the world of a gray area, what is the commander's intent? What's the spirit that we're trying to, but so I often see a lot of senior leaders disregard, that human element, and that used to frustrate. So that's why I stayed, Pedro, to try to be a buffer, I didn't, especially when I did my 20 years, it's like, you can't kick me out, motherfucker. Go ahead. So I use that freedom to like speak up for my guys, and to, I wasn't going to defend them for shit that they really fucked up on. No, but you know what? If we're going to be fair and show them that, we put this great emphasis and value on justice and leader, but when you're not showing them that through the leader's actions, that frustrated the fuck out of me, man. You got to be real, man. You got to be real with your guys. No. They're going to die for you, brother. The last corporals, you owe them every fucking single ounce of your energy. Not the officers, you owe that young E3 trigger puller, because they're the ones that are gonna die en masse, wholesale. You owe them everything, and I couldn't understand why leaders did not see that,
Wow. I never took it that way because, as you said, escalation of force. We don't, sometimes we just, like you said, throw the book, and it's a shame.
It is, man. You destroy a kid's morale, and Jesus.
But it doesn't just destroy the kids' morale; it destroys the unit's morale, or the platoon's morale, or the flight, or the squadron, or whatever it is. Yep. It destroys everybody's morale because fucking James just fucked up, like, or Corporal.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
Joe shit the rag, man.
He just fucked up, but he didn't really do it intentionally. He just, something happened, and it was a circumstance thing. Yeah. And then now everybody's fucked up. Now they're like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah. Nobody will speak up in that type of toxic command climate, where no matter what happens, you're getting the book thrown at you. It is just not good for morale, man. And we forget that we expect those guys to watch their backs. And one thing I would ask in those type of situations to those leaders, if you're in the back of an Amtrak, right? Let's say you're the battalion commander or the battalion sergeant major, and you're in the back of an Amtrak, right? Somewhere in the streets of Fallujah, and you hit an ID or you get ambushed or something, are those lance corporals going to save you? Are they going to stay in that? Are they going to rush in to save you and pull you from the fire? Think about it.
Wow. I never thought of it that way. And it's also one of those things where as morale comes through and you're dealing with stuff, you just look at it and you're just like, how much more efficient can we be, or how much more effective can we be if we just had that little bit of morale?
Yeah.
You see it.
Yeah.
You see it.
And you know what, man? Your guys will run through a wall for you if you're real. They will take the hill. They will do anything that you tell them to do. If they know your heart is in the right place, if they know you're there with them, that you got their best interests at heart, man, they will follow you to hell and back, man. And that is what makes us lethal. I used to tell my guys, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to run you to the dirt, and we are going to patrol or hike or whatever, because somewhere out there, right, is an enemy version of you training harder than you to kill you. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to give that bitch the satisfaction.
Yep.
Yeah. And they were like, hell yeah, So they got that, they understood that because I loved them, like we talked about, because I cared for them, and I had their backs, that we are going to be lethal, right? We're going to be war fighters, and that no one will ever say that we should have done one more pull-up, run one more mile, because I used to tell them, there's an enemy first sergeant or sergeant major somewhere out there, a copy of me training hard to meet me in battle, and I'm not gonna let that bitch. We're not gonna get out trained. We're not gonna get out fought, out motivated, nothing. And they're like, okay, all right, let's do it.
All right, now switching gears. You kind of did the what you kind of didn't care for, didn't like, but now let's go 180 and go with what you did like. What was it that kind of gave you that feel? Because there's a lot of great things in the military, and this is your opportunity to. Yeah,
man, we talked about this, dude. Is the camaraderie? It's just, just today, Scott Patterson, if you're listening to this, Scott Patterson was a young sergeant. He was our operations chief when I was in the infantry. As a first sergeant, I was in the infantry, and he was a young sergeant who just made my job so much easier. And I mean, he scheduled ranges and did a lot of the heavy lifting for the company. And I was parking in my spot this morning, and he called me. Shut up, Blue. We shot this shit for like 15 minutes. I was in my truck, and we just laughed, remembering good times, and he was like, "Can I call you Rick?" And I was like, "Yeah, Scott." But we just laughed. Hey, remember when Gunny Charlo did this? Hey, remember they like, and that was it, man. That was. I was like, I was smiling for hours after that, just like, man, fucking Scott, man, and just called me, or I get a text from one of my guys, like, it's like, hey, Sergeant Major, can I use you as a reference? I'm applying for the sheriff's department. I'm like, yeah, brother, yeah. And then he texts me like a couple months later, hey, guess what? I got the job. Like, fuck yeah,
Yes.
That. It's the, you know what, man? Camaraderie is the gift that keeps on giving. And when you least expect, I may be down and out, feeling shitty, and then one of my guys texted me, again, a couple of weeks ago. He's like, hey, Sergeant Major, I was talking with some of the guys the other day. We had a bar, and your name came up, and just want to let you know that you were the best first sergeant I ever had. And I'm not, giving myself a pat on the back, because I'm probably one of the most humble people, but for them to say that, like how wow, here's me as a retired sergeant major, feeding off of this energy that these young guys, who other people probably thought were insignificant. Here I am feeding off of that, I have a lot of shit here, and I'm thinking right now, maybe I should just print those texts, and those that mean more to me than all this shit right here.
I never thought about it.
I should do that, and getting that, it's like, and it's not because of my ego, it's because of the shit that I've been through, second guessing myself, PTSD or whatever. My self-worth has sometimes been rock bottom, but then I get texts like this, and then it was worth it. It was. I made somebody's life better. And that is enough to give me like a couple more, little levers on the gas tank, to push forward.
And this is something that we talked about beforehand with the hike and camaraderie in the hike. I didn't know him. I didn't know, 3/4 to 90% of the individuals in the first hike, and here I am running the second hike, and I have people like him at the hike. Amazing people. You meet every type of walk of life. Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, and that.
Yeah, man.
We there was no discrimination there. Did we banter with each other? Because you guys just ate MREs and slept on the fucking ground. Yeah, we got filet mignon and we just 5-star hotels,
wine.
But it was at the end of the day camaraderie, because we had the after party and everybody's giving each other hugs and high fives and telling each other stories and just. But we have that commonality that just brings us together.
Same language, man.
Fuck the world. Like, we are our own fucking entity. And it's just great.
It's our tribe.
Oh, my God. It is such a fucking...
As a tribe, we have our culture. We have our language. We have Somebody said it that I think fit well when I try to explain to civilians, our wolf pack. We survive, even outside, even after we're no longer actively serving, we're still in formation, literally or figuratively, virtually, or actual physically, we are in this wolf pack, that looks out after each other.
And I'm saying this a few times throughout this whole conversation. We talked before. We had a couple beers or a beer and, just talked. And it's one of those where we all need each other. Like, and throughout the military, every branch is intertwined with each other. You have your operators, you have your war fighters, you have those of us that are just turning wrenches and making sure that these war fighters got what they fucking needed, and vice versa. They're out there fucking protecting our facilities, our bases, so we could get downrange further, and that's what makes us unique. He was telling me a story about the fucking pilots and shit, and they have banter even out in the field, and they don't know the pilot. They'll never probably ever meet the pilot. But it's just the banter that you have, even though like, these motherfuckers just saved my ass, but fuck you guys.
Fuck you, pilots.
But and it's just that thing. It's just nobody's gonna know but those that served.
Yeah,
those that served.
And it'll always be my most precious memories. Sometimes I'm lying in bed or just at work, and all of a sudden something flashes by, and a coworker will say, "What are you smiling at? Like, you've been smiling like crazy for like an hour." Like, you wouldn't understand, man. You understand just the arguments that we would have in the field, over the dumbest shit, or in the back of a 5-ton, man. Like the dumbest shit, And as a first sergeant, for example, I asked to ride in the back so I could hear the shit, and just like. And just listen, man, and then you try to tell those same jokes, and they're not as funny.
They're not as funny. They're not as funny.
But it's like, oh yeah, the shit that my guys would get into arguments over, man. It's like
some dumb shit too.
Dumb shit, I wrote I had a little, the Green Monsters. I had a page in the back. It's like shit I thought I would never have to say, and I had a list, and it became a lengthy list of shit I thought I would never have to say, like information in a Liberty brief. I once told the guys, "All right, assholes, quit stealing condom machines from truck stops." I never thought I would have to say that, shit like that, man. I was like, who, like, yeah.
Oh my God.
Good times, man. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for just the wonderful times, man. The endless smiles, the laughs, still give me a breath of fresh air even to this day.
When you're in the back of a 5-ton or a bread truck trying to go out to the flight line, and you're just with a whole bunch of not angry, but just kind of frustrated individuals working 16 hours a day, trying to get these things, and you're out deployed, and you listen to the shit, and you're just like, and then you engage, and you're like, I'm one of them, like,
Christ,
So, oh my God, I can never say the things, I can never run for public, because I know some of the shit that
oh my God,
I know some of the shit that would probably fucking come back.
Some opinions that I
remember. This motherfucker, he's our commander-in-chief, but he said that. No, God damn it.
I'm done. Yeah, same thing.
I'm getting impeached now because some asshole.
I could never be a priest because some of the shit that I had. I swear, I remember coming back off either field exercises or deployments and thinking, man, I have to go to confession like for the rest of my life for the shit not only that I heard and that I probably participated in, man.
And it was those conversations like the banana lady type of shit that you're just like thinking about, God, what else could
I could go on and on, man.
All right. So now we talked about a lot of the whys and everything, but what about anything that you would change or that you regretted? Because we both have our regrets, and then what we would change. But is there anything that you would change? Because and I'm gonna tell you right now, like how I feel. I wouldn't change a single bit of anything. You know, maybe there's something that I would tweak and go back about what I said, or maybe not even that. I don't think I would. You know, like everything made me who I am now.
Yeah. I you know what? That's a great way to look at it, man. And I am late in arriving to what you did. You know, I didn't think like that. I'm fairly recent where I'm able to be a little bit more gracious to myself, right? Because I went through some issues, you know, with PTSD where I you know, the feelings of worthlessness, of like second guessing, and like you said, I wouldn't change anything about that because it made me who I am. I would only change, you know, in hindsight, it's 2020, right? It's cliche, but how I reacted to shit I was going through. That I should, you know, and we tell, go get some help and go. Me as a first sergeant would be standing there in formation telling my guys, go get help, you know, don't feel ostracized, you know, you're not weak because you go get help, and I'm doing the opposite of that. You know, I'm holding it in. I'm not getting help. I'm feeling destroyed inside and with a fake mask, you know, and that's what I would change. You know, that feeling of self-deception, you know, of being a fake, that, you know, that I was telling my guys hey, you know, mental health, take care of yourself, but I wasn't. You know, I was doing the exact. I wasn't following my own lead.
But there's a reason behind that. There's a stigma that's typically given, you know, with what we do and what's going on. You know, that stigma. If you get help, and I'm just gonna be real. If you get help, you're a pussy.
Yeah.
If you get help, you're less than. If you get help, you know, you can't handle the stress. You can't handle, why would we send you back into battle? Why would we do this? Why would we deploy you? And then they put you on the sidelines where you don't want to be.
Yeah.
You know, but in reality, that's not the case. It's just there's that stigma. Is he qualified to deploy? Is he able to do this? Is he able to do that? And that's a sad reality that we have all had to face.
Yeah, and not just because of our us being in the military, but also particularly men, right? That, like, no, you don't show weakness, you deal with it, you suck it up, and then you go into the Marines or the, you know, Air Force or whatever, and most of us are already A-type personalities, you know, and so that adds another layer. And as a sergeant major, when I kind of figured it out, where, you know, like mental health is an injury, right? Is an injury. You know, and just like an ankle sprain or a cut or something. What do we do when you break a wrist? Well, it's an injury. You go get a cast on it. And we need to start looking at mental health as an injury. You know, and the way I kind of rose out of that is telling my guys, look, if we're out doing PT and you don't stretch and you hurt yourself, you're hurting the unit because we don't have a trigger puller out there. Someone else, there's a void in the firing line, you know, because you're hurt. You know, same thing with mental health. Go get checked out, you know, get better because we need you. And that's what the message we need to start saying. You know, like, look, man, it's an injury. It happens. Get better because we need you.
You know, it's funny because we did the hike and our guest speaker was an old friend of mine. I don't know if you know,
major.
Yeah, he's a major now, but he was a lieutenant, and I was his, you know, his mentor, or, you know, like, he comes in, and I was an E7, and here's this young little lieutenant, you know.
You're a senior enlisted leader,
And he brought up a good point about that mental health and being a little proactive and everything. Is that now that they have a mental health advisor in the units.
Oh.
And I don't know if you paid attention to that, but they started plugging them in, and you know, and individuals need to go see them. I think it should be something where, you know, hey, you have an open door policy to where you can just go in and have a conversation. Sometimes there's going to be things that are going to be needed to be escalated, but for the most part, sometimes just talking about it, you know, will help tremendously. And it's a constant. I mean, I'm on this show because to me this is therapeutic. I couldn't for the past few years, but hearing your stories and it relating to me is therapeutic. And I will preach this till I'm blue in the face. I have somebody at the VA that I see, and I have somebody else in the private sector that I see. So I see 2 counselors at least once a month. And for me, it's made a tremendous leaps and bounds.
Well, even within the course of these last few minutes, I can count about 2 or 3 light bulbs that went off. That I hadn't thought about before. So it talking, communicating, being okay to be vulnerable. It's a big deal. It's an injury. And we hey, what do you do when you get cut? You put a fucking Band-Aid on it. Mental health. Well, yeah, you go get help. There's something wrong with it. I would, and one of my biggest whys, right? And this is where I'm grateful that I am a sergeant major and able to talk about this, is that I'm able to now say, look, even a sergeant major had to ask for help, and I would doubt anyone to question my toughness or my, my resiliency or my, you know what I mean? I've done some of the most coolest shit, and I am never gonna let anybody say I'm less of a man because I asked for help. So my why, big time, is like, look, even a sergeant major is able to ask for help and still be okay.
And as we talked about that whole love thing, that's important. That's what did you say, the 15th to 16th
leadership trait? Yeah.
Leadership trait. That love isn't just empty words. This is important to us. Like everybody that was there, and I posted on my Facebook page, and whenever I put this out there, like, my brothers and sisters, I fucking love you. Like, I lost somebody, a great dear friend of mine, because I wasn't there. And so for me, like, I tell my best friends and some of the other individuals, hey, bro, I love you, man. Like, it means
at the hike,
like,
at the hike is I don't say I love you much, but at the hike, it's like, it's common. It's common to hear it. It's common to receive it. It's common to say it. Daniel, if you're seeing this, right? Much love, brother.
And you deal with all these individuals that are, like you said, A-type personalities. Mm-hmm. we have to do that, because we have to be vulnerable to be able to get the help that we need.
Yeah.
And I hope that you individuals that are watching this, understand that there's hikes throughout the United States. There's 125 hikes a year, or 125 chapters. Get involved. Go do that. Because if you're feeling like you're missing something, you will find it.
You will find it. You will find even somebody that's walked in your shoes.
And you don't think so, because we all have our own traumas, and we all have but there are light traumas that are associated with each other in every aspect. I went through some shit, and we had conversation about, like, the first 2 years that I was out of the military, this was a coping mechanism. Fucking horrible coping mechanism. I mean, I should be fucking 6 feet under bones right now.
You're not, man.
And I'm not. And I'm here in this platform to say, hey, fucking go get that help. Because I did. I fucking continually do. And
I still do.
He does. He cares. He cares about himself, and he cares about the others that are around him. Because what's a dead person? You're gonna mourn, but you can't talk to them.
Yeah.
You can't
relate
to them. You can't. It's too late. And that's why I'm here. That's why this is my why.
Yeah, and look at what your why does. It's like a nuclear reaction. It just spreads to everyone else. So the good that this does is just leaps and bounds, man.
So I'm going to reel this back in. Now that you're out and doing everything, what is your why? Because we had the conversation about, your motorcycle gives you that clarity.
Yeah. There's a couple, because I have to think about this every single day, right? As I deal with my shit. This one is a big deal for me. I'm sure you've experienced this, and for anybody that's ever done any sort of counseling, especially mental health, PTSD related, is what is one of the very first things on almost every session that a therapist asks you, right? There's two questions that they ask at almost every session. Are you thinking of harming someone else? I'm like, no. And then there's another question. You know which one it is. Are you thinking of harming yourself? You know what I'm tired of, man? Thinking about it. I'm tired of thinking about my answer. And this hits because, man, I want to just say, fuck no. Why would I? But I'm tired of stopping and like, you know what? If I weren't to wake up, I'd be okay. If I were to get hit by lightning, I wouldn't mind. If a car would run over me, I'd be okay. That's my why, man. I want to get to that point where like that question seems ridiculous, right? And it's not because we all have our monsters to deal with, but I want to be able to have my guys that are going through the same thing get to that point too. Like I did when I served. I got through something. I stayed so that I could teach my young guys too. And that's my why. I want to go into my counselor one day. My question will always be no to. I may want to off some people that I can't stand every once in a while. But as far as myself, I want to not think about that I don't want that pause. Do you intend to harm yourself? I'm like, nah. I just want to say no. Hell no. That's stupid. Why would I ever think about that?
Damn. And that's deep because we all have these thoughts.
Right? Yeah.
And honestly, we shouldn't be lying, right?
No.
But how many times do we sit there and say no when we really mean like, fuck, just...
Yeah. And then as part of that, we talked about this too. For a long time, I only lived day to day. I didn't make plans. I didn't make, because I didn't think I was going to be this old, right? To me, being in the military was like, there's always a chance. I'm too much of a pussy to off myself, but I wanted to get offed in honor, with dignity in the battle, I wanted the enemy to do what I was too cowardly to do to myself, right? So my family wouldn't be embarrassed because I killed myself, so that, my town would be able to put me in a wall of honor of veterans that served, and they won't do that if you off yourself, right? So I wanted an easy way out, I wanted to be, found in the battlefield with a bunch of shell casings on my side. And then I realized, man, my brothers that I lost, they would kill to be in my shoes. They would wish they were with their families. They would wish they were here, in my shoes, living. And that's when I realized, man, that I can't think like that anymore. I can't dishonor their memory by wanting to be in their shoes, 6 feet under. So I figured that, I want to live, I want to do honor by them. I want to think ahead, plan a life that they would have wanted to live. My buddy, Staff Sergeant Vincent Bell, I carry his bracelet in honor to remind myself that, I got a lot ahead of me. I have a lot to live for. He wanted to have that, and so now the world is open. It's, it feels good to think a year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years in advance now and make plans. And I never did that before. So there you go. Man, holy shit, that's a loaded question. I think I need a drink.
Fuck, man. I'm sorry. That's it. Come here.
Oh, man, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. You're here.
Yeah,
and
you're here, man.
That's the most important thing. That is.
Wait, we got a high five because if not, it might be gay.
It might be Navy? Is that what you said?
We don't have boot bands, so we have to high five and not make eye contact. No, thanks, man. But yeah, we all got a long, fruitful, beautiful life ahead of us. All of us, and that's my why, brother.
Now, I got two quick questions, but give me a fond memory of good, bad, or indifferent of something that you really, really, remembered throughout your time.
A lot. But the one that just popped up in my head, right? It was November 10th, the Marine Corps' birthday. Any Marines out there know that we're fanatical about our birthdays, right?
You're what, 250, right?
250. Yeah. My guys say I'm 250. No, I'm 53. But we were in Okinawa. It was 2018, November 10th. And we were at Camp Schwab. However, there was a bunch of protests by the Okinawans outside the gate because they were moving the airfield over to Camp Schwab. And so we were quarantined to Camp Schwab. November 10th, Marine's birthday on a Saturday. And then we're telling our Marines that they can't go outside, right? Bad juju. So I'm a first sergeant here and I was like, oh shit, so I went to the PX, it was late at night, and then I was heading over to my dorm, to my room. But I was like, the guilty conscience, like, fuck, man. I'm a first sergeant. My guys are up in the barracks raising hell. If I don't go and do a tour of the barracks, and if something happens, the sergeant major is going to have my ass. I want to at least have the duty document that I did a tour of the barracks, right? So I drop off my groceries in my room, and then I walk up the hill to where our barracks are for my company. And I walk in, and as soon as I walk in, the duty NCO, snaps to attention and reports his post. But I see the A duty, the assistant duty, like run across, and I'm like, all right, red flags. The A duty just sprinted out down the hallway. Something's going on. What's going on? I said, nothing, first sergeant, nothing. I was like, bullshit. I just saw the A duty fucking beeline that way. What's going on? Oh, and I heard some music, right? Some loud fucking music. I'm like, all right, come here, follow me. And you could tell the guy was like, the duty was like, fuck, we're done. So I follow the music down the hall, and it's coming from the common room, the rec room, the rec room. It's like, fuck, oh God, man, what's going on? Loud music, I could hear it was packed with people. And I kick the door open, and just like in the movies, right? Like everybody freezes, and everybody, and you could see that they're like, oh shit, the first sergeant, and just like the.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Everybody's just frozen, and I just see these guys like, oh man, we're in trouble, all kinds of shit. So I'm walking around, and you could just hear my footsteps, and it's packed, the whole company is there, and there's beer everywhere, and it reeks of alcohol. And I pick up a beer that's, on the table, on the pool table. It's on the pool table. So I pick up the beer, and I raise it up. And I go, repeat after me. And they all lift their beers. And we recite my favorite quote, right? My favorite battle cry. So we happy few, we merry band of brothers. For he who sheds his blood with me today shall forever be my brother. They shouted that out like loud as fuck, And then I said, they all recited it repeated it after me. And then I said, salute, bitches. And the roar, and I went, oh, fuck yeah. And then they calmed down and they're, hey, they go, assholes, or bitches, but that's a term of endearment. Mm-hmm. All right, you fucking assholes, take care of each other, all right? Celebrate well, you've earned it, you deserve it, but take care of each other, all right? Don't let this get out of hand. You know what to do. I don't want any incidents reported, and y'all have a good time. Thank you for allowing me to be your leader. And I said, I love you all. And the guy, motherfucker, they probably could have been jerking off, And these guys were a bunch of grunts, man. They were wearing skivvy t-shirts, and they had tick marks for every beer that they had drank
nice.
With a Sharpie. And, and I walked away, and I'm thinking, damn it, like, what did I do? I realized, though, at that moment that they would have gone to hell and back for me.
Yeah.
That I didn't, crash their party and tell them to, get, secure everything. And they listened, they had a fun time. They partied. Nobody got in trouble. Other companies did, man. They had the incidents, and they were in their first sergeant was standing tall in front of the sergeant major. My guys were grunts, man. Yeah, they got drunk, but you know what? They took care of themselves. Great NCOs, and I remember that was one of the best memories I've ever heard, man. I somebody recorded that, and I'll share it with you. Oh,
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They to this day, that was probably, I've been through many Marine Corps birthdays, some really fancy birthday balls. I celebrated the Marine Corps birthday in Afghanistan one time, out in the field in combat. But that one, in the rec room of the barracks at Camp Schwab, November 10th, 2018, was probably the most memorable one I ever had. And you know what? After that, when we went to the field, I knew that they were my boys. Yeah. They're my boys. And we would have killed the enemy. Eaten their intestines and asked for seconds. If that's what I asked them to do.
Damn.
And that's one of the best memories ever. Remind me to show you the video.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. All right, so we're wrapping up. Mm-hmm. But I always ask this one thing. I ask for advice that you would give to those that are about to go in, about to retire, or those that are still in and undecided.
For those of you that go in, make sure you understand the expectations. You're not going to a social club. You're going to the military. The reason why I made it easy for me was I knew I needed to have a haircut. I knew I was going to get yelled at. I knew. So don't make it into a surprise later when you feel like shit or you complain that they're telling you to do shit. That's what you do, your research, and if you don't like what they're going to ask you to do, well, don't join, but that made my career a lot better, knowing that if they tell me I have to wear a certain color of socks even when no one can see them, well, that's what I got to do. Mm-hmm. If they tell me to get a haircut every week, well, that's what I got to do. I knew that going in, and for those retiring, go out with a good taste in your mouth, right? Make sure you do everything you can to leave with a good feeling, with a good taste. Make amends, For those of you still in, especially if you're a leader, it's okay to chew someone out. It's okay to bust their balls. It's okay to have a meltdown. But at the end of the day, before the day's secure, give that person a reach around, right? Pull them in, tell them why they fucked up. Don't yell, just, do you understand why this could have affected safety, how this could have affected lives or mission, our lethality, and why this matters to me? Do you understand? And then tell them that you do this because you care for them. And I swear, your time in the military, man, will be worth it. But again, for those retiring, go out with a good taste in your mouth. That means the world. I got out with a happy heart, because I left, knowing that I did well by other people.
I really appreciate that.
Before you cut it off, I want to give this to you, Pedro. It's my own Sergeant Major coin. That's what it looks like. It's a heavy duty, and this speaks to me. This is when people see this, they're like, "Yeah, that's you."
That's fucking bad.
All right, brother. Hold on. There's only one way to. Yes. There's only one way to give that coin, man.
Yes. Wow.
Thank you for doing this, man. Thank you for what you do, saving lives here.
I hope so. This is near to me. I usually at the end say a couple resources or whatnot, but that hike has given me a new sense of purpose.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, this is that vulnerability right here, because seeing everybody's faces and having that discussion with people and knowing that hopefully I can make a small impact in their lives is my why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I want you to be a part of every one that I continue to
Hey, man, let's do it. Let's do it. You can count on me.
Not just in Tucson, but in Phoenix, because we're right there. This is us.
Yeah. And there's some San Diego hikes. There's Las Vegas hikes. There's all, like he said, all over the country, man. Take a shot, live on the wild side and go to a state that you've never been to before to participate in a hike. It is worth it. Absolutely worth it.
I will be in the Dallas hike in a week and a half. 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today.
Nice.
I will be in the Dallas hike 2 weeks from today. I'm doing the Connecticut hike. I'm
Oh,
doing the San
nice.
Antonio hike, and I'm trying to look at another one.
Okay.
But that's a resource for every one of you guys, because as we come together, we now have new brothers in arms,
And we are resources to each other too. That the hike turns us into resources for. I get calls at 2 a.m. from people that I met at the hike. Hey man, you want to talk? Like, yeah, let's talk.
Yeah. There was a poem that was read to us there about a lady who lost her son. It only takes 22 seconds to give a quick call and say, hey, I'm thinking about you. I care. If you need me, I'm here. Whatever that 22 seconds translates into later on, it's 22 seconds that you could have helped somebody with
Amen.
whatever. And that's going to resonate with me, because they say it's 22 suicides a day, but it's not. It's like 44. It's double that. And that's too many.
Yeah.
One is too many. So I ask you, what is your why? What is your purpose? Please have one. Come back. Bring it back. Because like he said, he's thought about, what if I didn't wake up, and what if, but you're here. Be that purpose and help somebody else, because he's doing that. He's doing that by this. He's doing that by his friends that he talks to, or whoever. And I ask you, please. So as I close out episode 40, thank you. 40, milestone.
Hell yeah.
He's got to be wearing that shirt next time I see him, too.
Yeah,
I got
I'm wearing it as soon as you leave, man.
to bed with just nothing on.
Yeah, no, that's there's those pictures. It didn't happen.
But like, share, comment,
Subscribe.
Yes, subscribe. This is great content. This is actually going to go in our IW hike.
Oh.
I'm gonna put it in our IW page.
All right.
And then Luis is gonna be in a couple days.
Nice.
So I need to get him on here.
Luis and I go way back. What was this? Platoon commander, platoon sergeant, squad leader, all these things way back in the day.
With you and Sotelo?
Sotelo too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Morioki.
Yeah.
All these guys, man.
These are some great individuals that I've had the pleasure of working with in the past 6 months.
Yeah.
And they're lifelong brothers.
Yep.
You guys are lifelong brothers. So,
One team, one fight.
one team, one fight. That's the Air Force,
Yeah.
though. How do you know that?
I don't know. Semper aim, go high, go. Wow. It turns blurry.
But I appreciate it.
All right, brother.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank
Salud.
you guys. Love you guys.
Stay
Be
safe, man. Stay safe.